Iranian woman back again. Over the past few days, the world has not stopped talking about Iran. The world has not stopped talking about this virtual hunger game that people are salivating at the mouth for, trying to find how many casualties are here, how many casualties are there, to prove who's right and who's wrong, who has the right to live and who has the right to die. The funny thing is that every time they talk about Iran, it seems that the one thing that nobody cares about is the Iranian people. You see, when they say Iran has the right to defend itself, they don't mean the people of Iran. They mean the regime that's killing them. Do you think that it's not lost on us that you've been standing by for the past decade after decade after decade, watching our casualties mount and saying nothing? Do you think that we haven't realized that you're only interested in Iranian casualties when you can exploit our bodies to score points in your political video game? You stood by and said nothing when 16-year-old Nika was beaten to death for protesting, when she was raped and tortured and her mutilated body was tossed out onto the streets. You said nothing. You said nothing when 16-year-old Serena was beaten to death for protesting. And you said nothing when her mother went to retrieve her body and they laughed at her and mocked her and told her that her daughter was a terrorist. And you said nothing when Serena's mother went home and killed herself by hanging herself in her living room after she saw her daughter's body. You said nothing. You stood by and watched those casualties. And now all of a sudden you care about Iranian casualties when you can use them to score points in your political hunger games. This world is so sick. And this outcome is so predictable. You know why? Because it is exactly what the Iranian people have been warning you about for the past 46 years, from 1979, in 1980, in 1981, in 1982, and every year since then. They warned you that if you kept ignoring their blood as it was overflowing in the streets of Tehran, that you would eventually taste it. They warned you that if you kept doing deals and diplomacy and business, empowering it with billions and billions and billions, that it would go from a domestic threat to a regional threat to an international threat. The world is so desperate to find who's at fault, who can be blamed for this. As you're watching these bombs flying in Tel Aviv, bombs flying in Tehran, you want to know who's to blame? It's you, world. It is you. When you turned your backs on the Iranian people for 46 years, you didn't just turn your back on Iran. You didn't just turn your back on the Middle East. You didn't just turn your back on the world. You turned your back on humanity. When you failed the Iranian people, you failed us all. So if you're so desperate to find somebody to blame, maybe it's time that the world finally looked in the mirror. Always seems to be when it's too late, doesn't it?